believe we are now officially on YouTube, right? So I want to know if anyone's got any news for us tonight. And let's start off with Dickie.
No, nothing from me.
Are you sure? Are you sure there's absolutely nothing, love?
Nothing at all.
What about you, Bill?
I've been gardening all week, and I have polished my Hadriana's silver statue. Yes,
Have you? You've polished it.
I polished it. Yeah. Apart from that, no, nothing exciting, I'm afraid.
All right then. Okay. I just gotta pour the kettle. Hang on a minute. Hang on. 1 second. Pour in the kettle. Here we go. A bit of the old pet kettle. There we go. Don't paint the kettle black, as they say. Right. What about you, Goff? Any news?
No news.
All right. No, that's fair. That's fair enough. As they say, it's all for the good of the country. As we know, we do our best in Britain. You know, we've got good examples, and we just got to crack on. Right. So I do believe I'm ready. I'm just gonna go on there. And I'm just going to click one more button. Oh, there we go. We're ready. We're live on YouTube as well. So, right. I had a very interesting video sent to me. And the video was of somebody who follows me on a regular basis on YouTube. And he sent me a video of his some really nice images of Pompeii, right? And last night, there was something that we realized in regards to Pompeii, and there was more than one person saying, "Amazing, Carl! How did you spot that?" But we will develop that as this. We got a little video, and then we got Rough Castle, which is along the Antonine Wall. So hopefully, what we're going to do is we're going to crack on with what we've got. And there's an archaeological discovery being made, one of the best, amazing archaeological discoveries ever made in the history of the world. Right. Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you seeing like a black and white image?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the one thing about this black and white image is that it basically plays like a bit of a video, right? And because I haven't really been able to break it down too much, it's going to be like this. So the bar's going to remain at the bottom of the screen. However, so we've got a little bit of music there that you don't need to hear. And we start off with outside Pompeii, looking at these sort of olive groves. And we're thinking, right, that leads us to how Pompeii was really starting to be discovered in the 1700s onwards. However, some of these images in Pompeii, as I'm building up to this, tell me a story that nobody rarely talks about. And I asked this man, Andrew, if he could take some interesting images of areas of Pompeii that nobody ever really takes photographs of. And I've nailed something really, really interesting, but we're not there yet. So obviously, we'll start off with the cat. I got a black and white cat like that. Now, this isn't one of those pièces de résistance images, but this actually tells me a lot of as an archaeologist. What this tells me is that would have been rendered over. It would have a beautiful fresco painted on it. Bob's your uncle, lovely, right? But what that image tells me is that if you follow the cursor, there are different reconstruction areas. There are different patchings up of this building, right? And one thing that those of you who have been on walks with me will know that I usually say, when you see a building and it's got all the same stone, it means that all comes from one quarry, and that's one phase. There's been no rebuilding. That's the way it is, right? But when you see an image like this, you see that there was rebuild here. And this looks like it's from a number of different quarries. Basically, what happened, when we think of Pompeii, there were numerous earthquake events. And if Pompeii didn't go up in smoke on the 24th of August in AD 79, there would have been an earth tremor that would have flattened Pompeii anyway. I don't know what would have been better, an earth tremor where people would have died, or the terrible deaths that they suffered anyway. But that's one interesting point. So as we see through some of the other images, there is lots of rebuild in the Roman period, which is different from the word reconstruction. Now, that is another problem for me as an archaeologist. When people are reconstructing the past, is that reconstruction of the past in the Roman period, or is that reconstruction of the past when it was done in the 1900s? Now, a problem that I had was when I was looking at our really nice archaeology in West Wales, and there's another little report going to be an Illicig pillar on that very, very shortly, and a really nice aerial view of something that I have not shown or disclosed to anyone yet, but that's going to be an Illicig pillar next. Now, the point is with all of this is that when we're going to be doing some work in West Wales, we're going to be doing some rebuilding work of a certain wall, of a certain building, of a certain age. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to record it, I'm going to photograph it, and then we're going to take the stones away that need to be reconstructed, and we're going to put a membrane, right? So you can understand. So underneath, that's the original wall. Then you've got the membrane and you've got a reconstruction on the top. That's the way you should do archaeology. But this is what's real and what's not at Pompeii. But I do believe this is Roman rebuild rather than modern rebuild. So going on to the next image, this is nice down to the ground. You can see a nice little rut. This is a clue to what we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, interesting enough, it looks like this is some of the natural volcanic stone, and this is some of the limestone, which Pompeii is made of lots of different types of stones. But that rut is really interesting for me, right? Because it paints the rest of the story that I'm going to actually tell you. The rut, obviously, there would be two ruts. Now we'll leave it there. But getting close into the archaeology, getting a close image like this is what I need. And also, one quick thing that we're going to mention is, why are there so many narrow lanes in Pompeii? Nobody answer this because that will spoil where we're going to go. Why is there so many back lanes in Pompeii, right? With in between tall buildings, right? Shadow leads us into that, but that's not the revelation that we're going to use tonight. Now, looking at this, and I'm looking at this and thinking, right, really nice image, right? So what we got a nice sort of shallow pool here. Now, questions I'm asking. Okay, we got evidence of render, some frescoes on the outside. How bright, how sort of displayed in the world of discovery was this when they excavated? Probably a lot more brighter. Now, that's another thing. At Pompeii itself, they're actually putting these sort of protection over the buildings, which they should have done from day one. Nice image, but large tracts of Pompeii are overgrown, which is very sad. They're trying to readdress that. Nice little bit of fresco, nice little bit of mosaic there. Now, this really interests me. This sort of pillar here, really basic style pillar. You've got the drums. This is what the individual bits of the column are. They're drums. So you've got the base plinth that commands this, and you've got this capital on top. There's a very basic capital. The question is, has that been reconstructed? Probably yes, because the first thing that hit Pompeii that very fateful day was an earth tremor that was damaged the forum, which damaged lots of the buildings, caused collapse, stopping people leaving Pompeii. So these are really interesting aspects, really interesting angles. Oh, bollocks. I've got to come off this now. I was in a flow. Whoever that is now, we're going to have to start again. Right, okay. Let's go to there. And I'm going to have to give somebody admin, because if anyone else comes to join us, and there's talk of Anne coming back as well, amazingly enough. So what we're going to do, we're going to, I do believe that I'm still sharing the screen. So let's just go back to this. Let's go back to, are you now back at, 1 second, blank screen. Right, are you now back at this black and white image, yeah?
No, blank screen.
You at the black and white image?
No, it's blank.
Right, okay, we're gonna have to try and start again. Right, okay, let's go back to where we were. I was in a massive flow then, so we'll just try and get back to it. So there we go. So, right, are you seeing what I'm seeing on the screen, like a black and white image?
Yeah.
Right, let's go back to the image where we were, and let's go to here. Right, yeah, let's just enlarge the screen. Right, so the point I was trying to make is that it's very important that we see history as it was. And I've just basically mentioned the earth tremors. And the question is, the really big question is, When we do reconstruct Pompeii, should we reconstruct it at the moment that it was before the pyroclastic flows? For example, when we look at Heracleum, do we actually sort of leave it at the point that all the pumice shout comes from the sky, right? Or do we actually reconstruct it, that column being reconstructed, all those different issues, all those different points? But you can get a good idea of the height of some of these buildings. The reason why lots of buildings in Pompeii are really tall is to do with heat management, and that's very clear. One of my people on a Thursday basically said, not on a Thursday, on a Tuesday, they said when they went to Pompeii, it was very, very hot, and it's very, very hot indeed. Now, the point is, back in the day, there would be a lot more shelter from the elements in regards to the sun. But let's go on to the next image. Let's keep on with the flow. And thanks for joining us, Henry. Let's go on to the next image, which is right. Okay, we don't. Right, here we go back to this. So what we've got is, this is rather interesting to me. Obviously, the other image here, we zipped past that one. Hang on, where was it? Just sort of play that. Okay, that there, you've got the vista of Pompeii. Not what you can clearly see is there's a lot of overgrowth there, and lots of Harris barriers that we typically call them in our country today. Anyway, let's go on to the next image, and which we've got here now. This to me is really, really interesting because it tells two bits. It tells me one thing: this has been reconstructed because that's a concrete beam, right? Clear, end of. We don't need that anymore. But the one interesting thing that I mentioned last night, which I'm going to mention now, is that when you look at Pompeii, it's got its own architectural form of the Roman world. But as a statement I made last night, Pompeii is Rome. Londinium is Rome. When we look at Pompeii, we should refer to it as Rome, because Pompeii is the embodiment, the emboldened embodiment of Rome itself. So Hadrian's Wall, that's Rome, right? In practice, it's a long way away from Rome. Pompeii isn't. But anyway, you see the point. Now, the point is, what you can actually see is that this should really be long, protruded canthus leaves, and so should this over here, but it's not. So this is a typical Pompeii type, their form of what Rome should be, the sort of embodiment of Rome. Now, interestingly enough, you've got all these sort of flecks in here, all these sort of vesicles in here. Now, this would indicate to me that this isn't normal marble. This is probably more like to be volcanic stone, right? Because there's all these vesicles, which you don't really usually get in the likes of marble. Or thinking scientifically, these might be burrowing bees that have actually caused this. I need more information on this to tell you what we're looking at. But the one thing, this is clearly been reconstructed. And obviously, these are beam slots up here. So this all collapsed. Now, interesting enough, the other image, the other column alongside, that's a very different type of canthus leaf style that we're actually getting with these columns in Pompeii. Now, remember, this is the Corinthian order. Now, anyone who knows anything about the three orders of architecture, they will know that it's Doric, Ionic, and then it will know that it's Corinthian. Now, Corinthian is the typical Roman style for the Roman Empire at the time. But obviously, Doric, even Egyptian, Ionic styles did prevail. But this is the style, the canthus leaf, the sort of where we enter Rome. But as we have entered Rome, Pompeii, Rome. So, next image. And just a reminder, yeah, there are little bees that do burrow into sort of light, soft rocks, for example. Anyway, and actually buildings. If anyone has ever been to near Lewis Castle, Anna Cleeve's house is nearby, and there's loads of burrowing bees that are in the building. Love it, love it. Interesting enough with that building as well, there's a solid ironstone threshold, but that's nothing to do with what we do at all. But anyway, so one of the things that I would say with Pompeii is when I was a child, I used to dream of Pompeii being a place that I could possibly give money to, right? So if somebody gives me a load of money, Bill, then we'll give it to Pompeii, right? And we'll put a roof over it, right? And we'll be able to protect all the archaeology. We'll be able to bring the archaeology back, and people can see all the wonderful archaeology that's been found there. But in fact, interestingly enough, they are actually starting to roof over bits of Pompeii, which is great. They're getting there slowly. But the point is, you've got this nice sort of Really interesting. If we zoom it, we can't zoom in on it actually, but you can see some horses on there, right? So this is an altar, and that bit of marble's remained there, which is absolutely brilliant. Usually these types of things would be dragged off into museums, but it's still in situ, which is great. Now, I've always thought about Pompeii is that if they could do a little bit more about the greenery that's actually growing up around there, taking over bits of Pompeii, for me as an archaeologist, give a lot better experience. Now, this is where I wanted to be, right? And the reason why I wanted to be here is this image. Now, when we were talking last night, I developed what I was saying, and we went on for a few minutes, but I'm just going to spit it out. There is areas of Pompeii that actually have exchange points. So if people's going down that point, if people are going one way in a cart, right, they'd move their vehicle around and they go another way, right? So exchange points. But what does that exactly mean? So if we park that there and leave that, Pompeii itself is a place, as somebody who's actually done access analysis, following routes and understanding how how roadways work and access and control and all the rest of it. Just what we're going to talk about is as follows. Have you ever been along a pavement on one side and there's a pavement on the other side, and suddenly a pavement runs out, right? So you've actually got to you're forced to cross the road, right? People usually say that it's practical because there's hedges coming up and walls coming up, but that's usually not the case. Compulsory purchase would simply mean that bit of that bit on the right that you're walking on, they would compulsory purchase, take out all the hedges and everything else. Can you just bear with me a minute? I just got to let a cat out of the bag. Come on, Morgoth. Dark Lord out. Right. So if anyone's ever been on like a pavement where you're forced to walk over to the other side of the road, that's called control, right? And there's a lot of this control in Pompeii. Think of that, right? There's one quick thing. There's a back alley, right? We'll look at something more practical. See, there's a bit of a bend in there. That's deliberate, right? Or everything that you see at Pompeii is deliberate. It's planned. It's the town plan. It's planned. Everything's planned, right? Let's crack on with this. So the reason why we've got these narrow lanes is if you've got tall buildings, ground floor, first floor, second floor, you've got sort of you're in shade constantly, right? That's the first point. That's the first point. But you can see here that you've got the pavement itself, curbstone. It runs out, right? It just runs out completely. You can actually see that along most of here, I think along this track, there are little holes that drain away some of the liquid, but you don't get a lot of liquid in Pompeii because it doesn't rain a lot, right? So the fact of the matter is there's going to be a lot of crap building up in the road, but we'll do the crap in a minute, right? But we'll leave the crap for a while. Nobody interrupt, we'll leave that. But the one thing as well is that you can clearly see that this is not really 2 meters wide, right? So therefore, could only get one cart down it. So that's evidence of a one-way system in Pompeii. Because if you've got another cart coming the other way, it's not going to be able to pass at all. You can clearly see that this image up here is one-way traffic, right? Very few people to actually talk about that. They thought the carts and wagons were going down, right? But do we ever talk about the fact that it has to be one way? Because if you've got another cart coming the other way, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, one interesting thing that we actually discussed last night is another image that we're coming up with, but I can actually say it now. When you look at the image at the bottom, very much looks like if you deepen this, it would be a canal, wouldn't it? You have water flowing down it. Think of that. Well, we're not going to think of that at all. When you go to Cardiff, for example, you've got the old Glamorgan Canal. You can see little bits of it, right? Basically, you've got the canal on either side, or one side, you've actually got a walkway. And the walkway isn't for pedestrians. It's actually for people to actually lead the canals further on down to the docking area, right? This is so we're thinking what we discussed last night is that 2 points. If this is going to be full of crap, full of mud, right? You're not going to want a person tramping through this. What they're going to do, they're going to use the left-hand side, and they're going to guide. They're going to guide the oxen. further on down the road, right? And you could say, oh, well, why didn't they ride the oxen, right? They're not going to ride it because it's going to go too fast. They're not going to have any control, right? And the bends and the twists of all these roads are basically to do with that access analysis and control of these trackways in Pompeii. Right, let's move on a little bit. Let that sink in with what I've said, without anyone making a comment on that. Let that sink in, right? But interesting enough, so what we've got, and we'll make another point as well. This is a twofold point. The first point is you get the different lanes and trackways in Pompeii built in different ways for different reasons. That's a fact from what I'm seeing. This is obviously there's shops along here. You know, this is clearly pedestrianised, right? And you've got a nice pavement, but it's not a massively wide pavement. So there's going to be control of movement of people along this pavement. Maybe people on the pavement going northwards, and maybe people on the other side going southwards. It makes it's common sense. When you go on the tube in London, for example, you get shouted at if you're going on the left hand way and you're going right, and on the right hand way you're going left. It's typical. But when you think about Pompeii, if I think Bill's been to Pompeii. When you go to Pompeii, you've got loads of different types of lanes, loads of different types of roads. They're all different for all different meanings, all different purposes. Let's move on. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. We'll come on to this in a moment. This is actually part of what we just said, right? But you can clearly see that this is as wide as it gets, really, in Pompeii. There are a couple more wider plaza, but it's probably as wide as you get, right? So you can clearly see this is only built for one cart, end of, right? And you're only going to get one cart down there. Can you imagine if you had a fire just further down the road? Because, yes, Pompeii did have a fire brigade. Rome had a fire brigade, as well as they had a police and as well as they had a hospital. So when you start to think about this, you start to think, hang on a minute. Is Carl right? Is Carl wrong? You're starting to think, well, hang on a minute, right? Are there certain times of the day that this could be used by people, or were some of the lanes and routeways used by all the people all of the time, or none of the people some of the time, right? Or were they used for emergency vehicles? Because if you keep this clear, right, you'll be able to get their little horse and trap, their little fire brigade up and running, up and going down the road, right? Because yes, you can imagine it. I know you're talking about Will Hay and the and his when he's in the fire brigade. Remember that one? You're thinking about that. But anyway, the point is we're looking and we're thinking that this is much more practical. It tells us something. If you look on the left, if you look on the right hand side, the pathway's narrow on the left hand side. Why is that? Right? Because this is planned. This was all deliberately planned. This was put up on a Wednesday evening, right? So what you can clearly see here, if you squint and you look over on the right hand side, right, that reminds me of Cyprus. When I went over to Cyprus in 1983. When you look over there, that also looks like it's a ruined Turkish village in Cyprus, for example, in 1983 as well. But when you're looking at this, you're thinking, okay, it's a little bit narrower pavement on the left hand side. Why is that? It's a wide pavement on a right hand side. Right, and you're thinking of obviously this is like where the townhouses are, some of the shops. Everyone's going to have a little bit of a shop. This is the archaeology of Pompeii, an archaeology of Pompeii that tells us another story, right, within a story, right, and so what we're getting, maybe what I'm going to chuck in here is the thing about my French is the thing about shit and mud, right? Easy, we've said it now. Last night, I asked a question, right? And I'm actually going to write a film script on this if I've got the time one time. And it's basically, I said to one of them last night, I said, well, it's the archaeological evidence tells us, right, that the roads were swept and the lanes were kept clean basically every single day, right? And then Margaret jumped in last night and says, that's because my slave cleaned it. And I said, no, it didn't. I did, right? Because there's a lot of money in crap. There's a lot of money in dung. For example, my granddad, a bit like me, he used to have a bucket in the back of the car and a shovel, right? And whenever this was usually in Barry. Yes, Richard can remember the time that there used to be horses and traps going around Barry. Well, I can, and I'm younger than Richard. So he used to get me going out the car. He used to get me going in front of the cab, picking up the horse dung, right? We used to put it in the back and we used to sell it. Oh, I gave away a secret. We used to sell it to the neighbours. I used to go around the neighbours and sell them this horse dung, right? I only used to get them 10 pence a bucket, but it was my way of my granddad getting me to make a little bit of money. But anyway, the point is, right, being a Langford as I am, right, my granddad, I'm like my granddad, believe me, right? It's like that material that you're collecting in the street, right, is valuable, right? And maybe I know this sounds really weird, right? I know it sounds really weird. It's a bit like talking about hill forts, and you got banks and ditches around the hill forts to keep the foxes out. Very practical. A fox could kill hundreds of chickens in one sitting. But sounds a bit like that theory. Maybe one of the more practical reasons for these roadways is so a horse and trap can actually go through. A little cart, an oxen can be driven to actually collect the crap off the road, because I know full well, right? I know full well. I've got 20 sheep, right? And having 20 sheep, my sheep produce a lot of dung, right? Oh, by the way, interesting enough, right? When we started having sheep, I said to Michelle, we've got to make some money out of this, and we actually sell our 1.5 kilograms of sheep shit in West Wales for 15 quid. People do buy it. So there we go. But yeah, I do pay taxes on that, Henry, by the way. So shut up. Anyway, the point is, with all of this, is that you start to think that in the archaeology, these roads are really kept clean, right? And you don't, if when they excavated Pompeii, you'd really, if these weren't kept clean, you'd find a thick layer of broken down material. And my sheep, back to that, my 20 sheep, we've got another 8, by the way, little babies. My 20 sheep, they produce a lot of dung every single day, right? And that's from 20 sheep. Can you imagine the old donkey wandering down the street, the odd horse, people taking a cow to the abattoir in town or whatever, and human waste as well, it's and people discarding stuff, discarding fruit. It's all going to build up really, really quickly, right? These are going to be kept clean. End of. And the guy, Nylog, Andrew, who provided these photographs, he said, I've got lots more photos. I'll send them over tomorrow. What you're saying makes perfect sense. And also we hide behind the buildings from the sun. Exactly. That's what we're talking about. Thank you for that, Andrew. Send more images over. It's the guy, he's on YouTube now. Brilliant. This is really good material tonight. And now, again, we this is familiar. Andrew, you got a familiar image there, right? I want unfamiliar images, right? Like we just done. Anyway, thank you for that, Andrew. But anyway, we're looking here. This is actually different from the normal water troughs in Pompeii, where you get like full stone water troughs. But obviously, if you're going to move something like this, right, you got a drain hole there as well. Interesting. Little hole there. Maybe there's a bit of maybe the water's actually like a bit of a fountain there flowing into it, right? Lots of different types of these sort of troughs. Loads of them around Pompeii. Bill's been there. He's probably counted hundreds of them. But when you think about that, and obviously the other image down below, and again, this shows a lot of brick being used, and we'll go on to that in a moment. Right. Next image. Now, right. What I should have done tonight is I should have actually taken screenshots of this. And actually set them up, but I really couldn't do them with my technology. I don't know why. But this is really interesting, right? What do I do first? Do I do the image down the bottom or the image above? Both have got really interesting aspects. Now, the interesting aspects is this is a really narrow lane, right? And you can see that there. That's going to stop any cart coming down, right? You're not really going to be able to do much with this. This is for pedestrians, obviously, right? And when you think about that, you think, right, obviously it's very narrow, and that's going to protect you from the sun. So if you think about that's a ground floor. If you put a first floor on there, you have a few overlapping roofs. That makes real sense in Pompeii. But I will say one thing about Pompeii, which is something that's going to surprise everybody. Then we're going to go on to the image above. We're just going to do a little bit of a slurp. And obviously, when you think about on the outside, that would all be rendered. what did that look like when they originally excavated this building? That's the interesting thing. And obviously, what you do find around Pompeii, naturally, they've had to put new lintels into some of the doorways because obviously the wood's rotted away, or it's been carbonized. That's what we're doing. Interesting that. But so when we move to the next image, right, that has got some really interesting pointers for me as an archaeologist, right? What those pointers to me as an archaeologist are as follows: loads of marble, brick, loads of marble, stone, which would have been rendered over it, would have been stuccoed, it would have been painted white. Yeah, there is a lot of wealth in Pompeii, and it's probably there would be a lot of cowboys like me would say to somebody, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to build this. You go on holiday, right, and this will be made out of marble, right? So you sort of stucco over it so it looks like marble. So, or maybe the person commanding this knew it was made of brick and they wanted to cut some corners, but we got a bit of that, or stone, as the cursor on that's on stone. But yeah, we got this, and I'm thinking, right, one of two things, right? And this is the problem when we're facing archaeology, right? The first problem is this is this part of reconstruction damage repaired in the Roman period? Because what we've got is about a decade and a half before Pompeii went up in smoke, right? Because it did. Heraclean more so. Is that a Roman reconstruction? So what's happened is this has all collapsed. All of this has collapsed. And the bit of the drum, the bit of the column was fractured. They had to take that away. So they decided to build it up in brick, right? They couldn't really repair it because if they just fractured all the way round, all the way through, unless you bound it with sort of lead and iron, it's probably be cheaper to actually build it up with brick. And then what you do, you would invite yourself to stucco it over rather than a complete render. Nice little bit of thin stucco, sort of bit of a paint on it. Maybe you might indicate some fluting on it. But that's the thing. I really would like to know whether this is reconstruction in the modern age or reconstruction in the Roman period. But there is one thing quite clear, right? This top bit is probably more than definitely being rebuilt since the start of the excavation, because the ground tremors would have actually shaken that down to the ground, right? It's unlikely that has survived from the Roman period, like that in that form. It's just you can see that it just doesn't gesticulate right. And one thing that people usually do when they reconstructing the pediments like this, as I've seen when I went to the Acropolis in I get the Lindos Acropolis mixed up with the other one on Rhodes. Basically, they had the Italians when they built the Acropolis building and reconstructed it. Right, what they did, they put they used cast iron to sort of fill in the gaps rather than brick, as they're doing here. I got to let the other cat out the bag. Go on, Marley. Go on, chick. Go on, get some rats. Go on. So what they did with the Acropolis on Rhodes, the Italians, they actually used cast concrete, right? So you had a bit of marble, a bit of Roman marble, cast concrete, bit of Roman marble, pediment, a bit of whatever, right? What's happened over the years is that the heat and the moisture has actually got to the metal and it's exploded. So they had to deconstruct the whole building, a bit like what they're having to do with Howard Carter's reconstruction at Knossos in 1922. Let's go on to the next image. And the one weird thing is, well, I actually thought me talking about these images would take 5 minutes last night. It hasn't. It's taken a lot longer than that, which is great. I'm enjoying this because it actually says a lot about Rome. But this is Pompeii again. When you're thinking about this, did our towns in Britain ever look anything like this? The answer is no. Because the towns in Britain were developed to be available for traffic movement of people, and not so much the control that you're seeing exacted in Pompeii. I'm actually going even further. I tell you what, right, Bill, you know what the feeling's like, Bill. If I had another lifetime, right, if I was a young lad again of 20 years old, I might think, right, I'm going to study all the lanes and stuff in Pompeii. To be honest with you, I'd get off on it because this would be the type of thing that I'd love to study, right? I know that sounds geekish, but I'd love to study access analysis and how all the roads and all the sort of sense of control and people getting taxes, getting tolls on going down some of the streets in Pompeii. I think that's a really interesting thing. But obviously, when we're building in Britain, we're doing something very, very different. You can actually see the big tracts of Pompeii are now sort of overgrown there, which they're desperately trying to do something about. When we are looking at Pompeii, you do have areas that have modern roofing in to protect the archaeology underneath. And again, looking out in the distance, the modern, well, not the modern Italianate architecture and the Roman that you've got in the foreground. Obviously, it is getting better at Pompeii. I've got to be honest with you. Now this, right? I had an absolute orgasm looking at this. I thought, oh my God, look at this. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now, it's not best for me to have a woman with me when I'm wandering down streets like this and looking at trees. I usually say that they're absolutely really sexy and they're more sexier than you. I've done that before and I've often had a slap in the face. But anyway, this type of thing really turns me on. And the reason why this turns me on is like a number of points. You've got the sense of the walls running really, really tall, 2 stories, right? And you're thinking, right, that proves everything I've said. It's really shaded in there, right? It's really, really shaded, and the flooring there as well. I'm gonna actually go with terra sigillata. Maybe I might talk about Roman concrete there, but I'm not really not terra sigillata. That's Samian. Whatever Roman name for Roman concrete is. Well, I'll get that later. But anyway, the one thing that I'm gonna take a note of that to make sure I do a little bit of research in the break. Oh God, I missed the word then. But anyway, thinking about Roman concrete on the floor there, and you're thinking, right, that would have all been rendered, that would have all been painted, right? You can clearly see that the lighter colours at the bottom, but unfortunately, when the lighter colours at the bottom, they've been exposed to the modern elements, and that's decayed them. So that would have been all rendered all the way to the top. But you can actually clearly see this is actually a sense of control. You're down a tight alleyway there, and there's a limited number of doors on the left, right? Again, this is all part of access analysis. This is all part of control. There's nowhere else to go. There's no windows. There's nowhere else to go. The only way you can go is from A to exit on the left there, the other exit on the left, or keep going. So this is really, really interesting. And you can see this. This is completely different from any of the other lane architecture, road architecture, pathway architecture that we've seen in Pompeii tonight. And this to me is like a journey in itself. You're stepping in the footsteps of those people who have gone before you. In a way, you squint your eyes, you can look up and you're feeling really shaded. This is all deliberate. This is all part of the sense of control, the raison d'etre, the wonderful archaeology that wonderful archaeologist John Romer used to mention on his programs years ago. If you haven't heard the name John Romer, remember him. So you can imagine a theatre setting here, and you're thinking, right, you've got nice little bits of carving there you can see, and you're thinking, okay, you've got the steps, you've got the sense of, again, ancient Rome, and again, it goes to that, and we stop, and we only got half of this, which is great. We don't need the full bit, and you're just thinking, in a moment, you're thinking, you could be back in Rome. You could sit on one of those seats. And you could do a scene from Life of Brian. Where's a baby meant to gestate? In a box. You could go to the Life of Brian there. You could wonderfully do this. And in many ways, right? In many ways, you sometimes in Pompeii, it actually takes you back to Pompeii. And when you think that's like time travel, proper time travel. When Bill had his coin of Hadrian earlier on, and what he was talking about is his denarius of Hadrian. I'm presuming it is a denarius, Bill. But anyway, so he's looking at that and thinking, right, Look at the image on that. Look at that coin. Look at the so you've got the obverse. You're looking at the bust of Hadrian. On the reverse, you're looking at the you're looking at the reverse. And you're looking at the sort of maybe an image of Mercury or Venus or something else on the back of his coin. But that coin itself hasn't really travelled in time because it's in Bill's hand. This hasn't travelled in time either because it's still there. It's still broadcasting the idea of Rome to us today. Obviously, there we go. So obviously we've seen an olive. No, that's not an olive tree. What the hell is that tree? I've forgotten the name of that tree that we just seen there. Right, not really sure there's a name for that, but anyway, cracking on. I'm sure somebody could come up with it. I like things like this when you sort of squint in your eyes and a bit of work, a bit of stonework on your left, and you're thinking, right, okay, a little bit of reconstruction going on there. We like to see it, really do. Not sure what the hell that is, but I'm loving this, and I'm loving that image above. Which do I do first? Which is I'm most fond of? Well, we'll do the thing that I'm really fond of after we've done the one at the bottom. So when we think about it, what's the difference between that column and that column? Right, there's two differences. That was deliberately built, right? But that was deliberately built. But they basically, the marble that we've got here, which is probably I think that's Italian marble rather than some of the more whiter sort of imported versions of marble, which may have come from Sicily or Sardinia, but or maybe from ancient Greece. But what they're doing here, they're basically making a statement. We really can't be asked with spending money on getting sort of proper marble, which would be very expensive. Some marble is being quarried in one piece, but you can imagine having a 5-meter long piece of marble traveling down some of the twisty, bendy streets of Pompeii. It's not going to get down there. So they've been being transported, half a ton weights of drums being moved down through the streets of Pompeii. That is definite. But the one downside about building with brick is it's not going to be as load bearing as you've got the marble, right? So forensically, you can think that this marble, this brick column isn't carrying a great deal of weight, so it's going to be a lesser building than this column is actually carrying. And I would say one thing: this hasn't been reconstructed, but that has over there. And the reason why I know that that's been reconstructed, there's a blob of concrete in there, and it's just been stacked up. Right, not a really good job of reconstructing that on the right, so that has been reconstructed. This clearly hasn't. They're not going around rebuilding and reconstructing brick columns, but this is why this is original. Now, interestingly enough, what you can clearly see is the architecture here. You can clearly see some brick, you can see some stonework, and my reckoning is this is being rebuilt. This is a little bit of rebuild. Right, straight to my lanes, straight to my axis analysis, driving ourselves down lanes. Now, the idea of the oxen came up really nicely last night, and obviously if you're driving an oxen down here with a cart behind, nobody's going to be able to come the other way, so it is definitely one-way traffic. So, and I actually come up with the idea last night is that maybe people use some of these lanes at certain times of the day, and this would have been patrolled and controlled by people who are managing traffic. Because if you've got two carts going down here with two animals, and even though you're shaded, it's going to be still hot. You're going to be having arguments. Now, again, reminder: this is all planned. Pompeii is planned to the letter. All Roman towns are planned, but look at that. There, you've got the pavement, right? And this would have been a lot narrower because it would have been rendered.
Hang on, Carl. There's no pavements on this. Oh, sorry.
There's one
Carry
on the
on.
left.
Beg your pardon. Okay.
Bill, look
Carry
there.
on.
You've got a little bit of a pavement there,
Yeah,
right? A little bit of pavement.
I got it now. Sorry. Carry on.
Got it. So you've got the curbs along here. Now, you're not going to be able to walk along here because the render is going to be really thick on the walls. It's going to be, and you're going to be, that's going to be a no-no, right? Because you're going to be damaging somebody's wall, and I'm sure there's going to be rules against something like that in Pompeii. You know, beautifully painted white wall, right? With Romans go home, graffitied all over it. No, that's a bit of a joke from Life of Brian. But the point is, you're not going to be able to walk along this curbstone. So why have you got a really narrow pavement, really narrow curbstone? albeit that you've got these stepping stones. You've got the stepping stone there. That stepping stone is going into a building. That stepping stone is going into a building. So the only reason you've got these stepping stones further on is actually going through thresholds, right? But therefore, there's no stepping stones here. And the reason why there's no stepping stones, you can't go on to the other side. This is all about control. You can clearly see this is about control. This is about access analysis. So obviously you get to here and you've got to cross the road. You've got to get to this side, and it's really narrow. And we go back to the other thing as well, is that when you think about this, it's almost as if this is singular traffic on the pavement, right? And this is the reason why it's singular is this is going to be for maybe assisting an oxen to be drafted down the road, whether you're going north or south, east or west. This is what this is saying to me. A little bit like horses were actually used to in regards to the canal pathways, to assist some of the canals to go down some of the pathway, down some of the canals, particularly the Glamorgan Canal. That's where we're looking at the evidence from. And the other thing as well is this is the final point. If somebody's if somebody's driving a draft animal down this trackway, right, and there will be muck in here. Muck will build up over the course of a day, right? The person's not going to be walking in this, because as soon as they've got to step over this, and they've got to go back down, step over this. So this thing that the person is assisting the draft of the animals to go down the street, they're going to be on this pavement on the left. Nobody's going to be on the curved stones on the right. So you can get another idea from these images. When we look at Pompeii, and I should have mentioned it on the other image, actually, the one we've just seen. When we look at Pompeii, the one thing that we see with Pompeii is that it's not complete, right? The Heracleanum's more complete in areas, Anaplontus, for example, than the likes of Pompeii. There's a lot of damage at Pompeii. The earth tremors, lots of buildings came down. So if somebody turned around and said, actually, what you're seeing at Pompeii is probably roughly about 25 to 30% of what was once there, right? Or maybe you might go to about 35, but that's all you can go to, right? Because the rest of the 65% of Pompeii, 70% of Pompeii was flattened, right? And this is the thing. So when you go to Pompeii, if I say you're getting 25 to 30% of the picture of Pompeii, I wouldn't be too far wrong. Maybe I'm out. Maybe it's more like looking at about 25%. And again, back to that talk that we gave with Rome, right? You're looking at the Colosseum and you look at these buildings in Rome, but you've only got about 5% of Rome surviving, maybe 5 to 10% of Rome surviving. So what we got surviving in Roman era Britain? About less than 0.5%, maybe less than that, of Roman archaeology surviving in Britain. Maybe 0.5% is actually a bit high, right? It really, really is. Because when you think about Londinium, you think of, you could think about the Billingsgate Baths, you could think of the Temple of Mithras, you could think about the walls, you could think about the evidence of the gateways and other bath houses as well. And the London Stone, not forgetting that. But all of that equates to roughly about 0.5 of Rome that was in Londinium. That's all we've got. Right, it may sound a lot, but it's not. Mind you, when you look at the walls of Caer Went, particularly the south wall at Caer Went with the towers. Now, that wall is surviving probably to about 25, maybe 30%. And you'd think, oh, that's pretty complete, but it's not. The height's gone, lots of the towers are gone, lots of the out bits of the wall. So again, when we look at things like this, we can really appreciate ancient Rome. Anyway, just sort of looking at this, I'm gonna probably be wrong, and Bill's gonna shout at me, is this Temple of Jupiter? But we'll move on. But anyway, the point is, when we're looking at this, you can clearly see some of the carbon monoxide damage with some of this archaeology. Yeah, it is in the air. And when we do think about this again, we think about the fluting on these columns in front for the drums. This is rather interesting. This sort of pediment, this sort of plinth. You can clearly see that you've got marble, brick and stone below, marble, brick and stone, and marble, and then you think, actually, right, again, stucco on that. So they are taking corners. They're sort of Pompeii is not as rich as historians and archaeologists paint it out to be, because if it was rich and rich and rich, you can imagine that this would all be made of marble. Can I give you a throwaway fact? I think Richard remembers this from some research. Barry was so rich at one point that they were going to make the rails in Barry made of copper rather than iron, right? Richard, I'm right about that, aren't they? But they decided to vote against it because could you imagine all those copper rails in Barry? They wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. There'd be a train coming along. Thinking, my God, the rails are gone, right? If you've got wealth, as in the moment when Barry was stinkingly rich, people were thinking about, we'll have copper rails, right? But by 1919, Barry Docks was falling out of favor. But Pompeii never really fell out of favor, but it still wasn't massively stinking rich in the sense that everything was made of the best, because it wasn't. Okay, moving on to another image. Again, just this little one. I like this. It reminds me of Bill with a button nose, which he hasn't got. You've got a nice little bit of a sphinx here, nice bit of sandstone, and you're just quickly looking at this, and you've got a bit more of the carbon monoxide damage there as well. Interesting. This must have been outdoors for a while. It's gone into the museum. And interesting, the difference between this is it's got an angelic face for a sphinx. This is a Roman sphinx. And again, this takes us a little bit of a trophy of Rome emulating other styles of fashions around the world. Rome is Rome wherever it is, but Rome has taken from so many different cultures, like this little piece. And again, now, Bill, can you come on to? I'm hoping that the guy Andrew Nylog who took these images. I'm getting this confused with Herculaneum, but is this actually in Rome? In Pompeii? Did you see this in Pompeii, Bill?
It doesn't look like Pompeii. It could be
Herculaneum.
More like Herculaneum, that, I guess, yes.
Yeah. I think it is Herculaneum, right? Now, with Herculaneum, lots of the buildings, I'm pretty sure it's Herculaneum. Lots of the buildings at Herculaneum are a lot taller, right? Because it was hit by a pyroclastic flow. The lava flowed through the streets at Herculaneum. It was a different experience. It didn't get the full shock of the earth tremor that Pompeii had, but obviously Pompeii was covered with pumice. But interesting enough, I'm actually thinking that I'm going to argue with myself here that I'm really struggling to work out whether this is actually reconstructed or whether this is actually rebuilt in the Roman period. This to me looks like it's been reconstructed, this top bit, because obviously this is contemporary with the Roman period. I would like an answer on that. But the problem is I can't get an answer. Maybe I won't get an answer. In future generations, they might say, with the records lost, that is original Roman stonework reconstructed in a period when Herculaneum was also hit with these changes in which are caused by earth tremors, which hit and shocked Pompeii as much as it did Herculaneum, Stabae, and Aplontus, and so on. But moving on to, I think we got one more image coming up, right? Oh, that's it. So that was a really nice collection from Andrew Melville, Nylog, and we just get this flowing here. Now, I'm going to come on to Bill. We're just going to let this flow in the background. Is there anything you want to say about these images that you either agree or disagree with? Say it now, Bill.
When I was wandering around Pompeii, I noticed some of the roads, yes, were on the same width just about, especially the back roads, and some of them had stepping stones across, probably a foot high.
Which we've seen, yeah.
Which indicates, I don't think you have actually, these are across the road from side to side, which indicates it couldn't have been used as a thoroughfare for carts, some of them.
Ah, right. So hang on a minute. When you so there, I thought you
No,
meant that as a
no,
stepping stone
no,
because
no. If
oh,
you take a,
there's numerous stepping stones which would have blocked the way for.
that's right. That's the point
Yeah,
I'm
that's
making.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing I found of interest,
Go for it, please.
which demonstrates a human touch, dotted around Pompeii. Obviously, the drinking points.
Yes,
So basically, stone containers, let's say 2 foot, 2 foot by 2 foot deep.
which we
And where the
did
water's
show.
trickling down, okay, people had to bend down and put their head underneath to actually catch the water in their mouths. And
Wow.
to support themselves, they had to put their hand on the top of one of the side walls of the trough.
Uh,
And
okay.
you can clearly see those have been worn away through use over many years, you know,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
which
yeah.
indicates that most of the people they were right-handed, but also some of them as well. There was a less indented wear area on the other side as well for left-handed people. Just a point.
No, that's a really good point because obviously that's associated with the thoroughfares and people wandering back and forth,
Yeah.
and obviously the troughs are not just for animals; they're for humans, as you've just said, and
Yeah.
this would have been a very hot landscape, but not as hot as it is today because obviously with the original height,
Yeah, just a
people would have
small
been.
human touch, I thought that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, I agree, I agree. Um, yeah, love it, love it. So what we're going to do now is I think maybe what we could do is as I'm reminded tonight is that if we come off here, I might actually we've actually got an article of the week, right? And I'm just going to ask you now, are you seeing an image with blurb on it and sort of an image?
No, just you.
You're just seeing me, right? Okay, let's
Oh,
just go. Yeah, don't be too surprised, right? It's just seeing me. So if we go to there, I'm going to get the image up. There, entire screen. Right. Okay. Where's my blood? Oh, there it is. I didn't know what I was looking at then. So if somebody said that they've got an article of the week for me, I've got an article of the week if they've already got it. Did anyone actually see this in the news?
I didn't know.
This is
You
a
didn't know?
major piece of archaeology, right? And the reason why this is a major piece of archaeology, it's this, right? And this has names of garrisons along Hadrian's Wall. I don't know what the hell this is, yeah, but that writing there would have spread along here, right? Um, and this is what this is about. So basically, it's known as the Balanga Cup, right? So the image displays fragments of a reconstructed Balanga Cup, a rare Roman enameled bronze vessel discovered in Soria, Spain. And this is reported in April. So what maybe no, I haven't got my notes here either, but anyway, we'll just read this through. So it belongs to a specialized group of objects known as Hadrian's Wall pans, which are believed to be souvenirs or commemorative gifts related to the Roman frontier in Britain. So people had keepsakes when they went home. So the design, so if we go back quickly and just basically see what we're looking at, and actually the object itself, oh hang on, we haven't got that up there. We'll go back to there we go. This is the object, right? There it is. So if we go back to the description again, which is there it is, beautiful, beautiful. And so it basically says significance, right? So this is associated with a Spanish soldier serving in Roman Britain. Significance. It is the only known example of its type to list forts from the eastern sector of Hadrian's Wall, including Calurnum and Vindobala. Interesting. Um, um, a bowl which is 4.5 inches wide, 3.2 inches tall. So it's not massive, right? But it's the type of thing that you take home as a keepsake with vibrant decorative enamel work featuring red, green, turquoise, and blue patterns. So this is enamel, it's basically glass enamel. Discovered found near a Roman villa in Spain, it highlights connections between rural Hispania, Spain, and the northern British frontier. So the vessel is currently being restored at the new Mante Museum of Soria. Belongs to a very rare group of less than 10 known similar souvenir cups, like the Rudge Cup, that list locations on Hadrian's Wall. Now, what we've got, again, looking at that, is banded along the top there. The names are banded along the top there. And this is what some of the lettering looks like. So we're going to go to the last description, which is there. You can see all that there. Names of Roman sites along Hadrian's Wall. And there it is. So basically, we've got inscription, the Latin text along the rim names several Roman forts located on the eastern sector of Hadrian's Wall. The visible letters include Dobala, which is likely referring to Vindobala, modern-day Rudchester. Condurco, referring to Condurcum, modern-day Benwell along Hadrian's Wall. And Vindo goes without saying, Vindolanda. So these are nicknames for these localities. Significance, this is one, as it actually said in the other description, is 1 of 10, right? So we'll I don't know where we are with this one. But another example is a Staffordshire moorlands pan. And these are very interesting, associated with the eastern side. I think what this means is that there's 5 associated with the eastern side, and obviously no, it's not, is it? So there's total. Archaeologists believe these vessels were likely commissioned by high-ranking military officers or officials as keepsakes to mark their service in Britain. The discovery of this specific cup in central Spain highlights the mobility of individuals across the vast Roman Empire. Now, the question is this associated with somebody in the 9th Hispanic Legion, which would have probably not been in service anymore when this vessel was made? It might be to do with an auxiliary or a commander associated with an auxiliary detachment. So there we go. That's how the color would have been, and they're still restoring it. So how they're going to restore it, I don't know. Are they going to restore it back to its original condition? Unlikely, right? What they will do a replica and display the two side by side. And there it is. And okay, we don't want that. So that's that. So I think what we'll do now, it's 8:12. We did start more or less on time at Barry time, which was 10 to 7, 10 past 8, 10 past 7. So what we're going to do is take a break now, and hopefully I've hit Henry on the bottom this time by getting that article before he says I found that in the newspaper. So I don't see anyone's faces on here at all. It's just a load of minstrels. So, Bill, anything you want to say?
Those cups interesting, Carl, because if you hadn't told me, I would have guessed they were medieval monastery ware.
Yes!
Much later. That's what struck me.
And it's in Latin as well, so you may have got that. Yeah.
Not typical Roman ware. Very unusual. Very unusual. Yeah.
We're seeing this a lot, that things that for example, when I show you a shoe tonight, when we go to Rough Castle, we'll have a break first. When we go to Rough Castle, there's a boot that looks like a medieval boot, right? That is actually Roman, and it's we're going to do that, but we just got one image of it. So if there's nothing else from you, Bill, we'll go on to. I tell you what. Let's have our sniveling boy Henry. It's actually showing here that all your I can't actually see any of you guys, but you're actually coming up online, so whatever. So Henry, anything you want to say, love?
Very interesting. I have sent you some more pictures
of Pompeii,
and Herculaneum.
Oh my God! So would you agree that last image is actually Herculaneum and not Pompeii?
I would say it probably is.
Okay, fair enough. But actually, Nylog Online is actually saying it might actually be the entrance into Pompeii. So can you confirm online, Nylog, YouTube, whether that is actually Pompeii or Herculaneum? The last slide, we'd really like to hear just confirmation on that. Anyway, thank you, Henry. So, Richard, anything from you? And after this, I'm going to have a yum.
No, nothing from me.
I don't know what that noise is, but that's life. Bill, what about you, Bill? Bill! I don't know what's going on here, Henry. It's all gone. Bill, anything else you want to say?
Right.
Go to
Phone
casket.
call. I had a phone call. Okay. Yeah. Did he call?
Who?
No. Okay.
What?
Well, I
Bill.
just dashed out to answer the phone.
All right.
So,
So there's nothing else you want to say, no?
no, thank you. No, you can have your break now.
What about you, Goff?
Yeah, that boat is what was it doing in Spain?
So it's basically been made on Hadrian's Wall because we've got 10 examples. Well, we can't work out if it's 5 or 10, but we've got 10 examples and they're like keepsakes. But the one thing that they're saying now, this is a really interesting point with this. They're saying that there's say 10 being found, right? Which I think is actually quite a significant sample because, you know, lots of things don't survive, and as it's made of bronze, the first thing you're going to do with something like this is melt it down. So when they're saying it's made specifically for somebody of high status, I really wouldn't go with that, right? If it was one example, I would agree with it, but as we got about 10 examples, they're not dead rare, right? Because we've got 10 examples. What is it doing in Spain? It's basically traveled back with somebody who'd actually served on Hadrian's Wall, probably an auxiliary. It's unlikely it would. But there is one thing: if it is actually from somebody from the 9th Hispanic Legion that actually come from Spain, right? It's proof that that they were there roughly about AD 130, when in fact the 9th Legion was probably like wiped out in the rebellion of the Jews in the Holy Land in 13 AD 132, right? The Ben something or other rebellion against Rome, where the 9th Legion was believed to have been wiped out there. So, but it might be evidence that somebody from the 9th Legion was still serving on Hadrian's Wall in a company or whatever, who then went back to Spain. So when you think about it, it is specifically found in Spain, right? So this is not an accidental item that's been found in Spain. It's deliberately been found in Spain with the archaeology. So that's
So,
what it's doing.
so it was like a souvenir piece then?
Yeah, it's a souvenir piece. It's like we all used to go to the fair and we used to get like a little
Rock.
bric-a-brac or a stick of rock or something. Now this is basically a stick of rock.
Okay. Amazing.
I think it's staggeringly amazing. I'm actually quite surprised I actually found it. I don't know how I come across it, but it just flashed up on the screen as being reported in April. The problem is with the election, I think we've probably lost a lot of news. And it's going to get worse over the next few weeks. There's going to be less and less in the newspapers. It's going to be more political. So if you do see anything, grab hold of it, cut it out, and we'll use it. But that was really nice. But Berlanga cup from Spain. Anyway, thank you very much, Goff. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 8:28. And I won't play any of that music from the 80s, Bill.
You better not. Quiet, please. Silent.
But there is one thing, Bill. You've paid your check for the next 2 months. You can't get out of it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be back 10 minutes.
Oh. Where's that? Where's he there? Oh, right. Always feels like you feel like a rest of your. Oh no. Not on this.
Ah, right. If you go away.
La route est longue, la route est longue, la route est longue, les plans de square. La route est longue, la route est longue, la route est longue, le plan de square. Was ist das? Right. Okay. Are we all there with total gay abandon? I don't think any of my gay lords are there yet. Are any of my gay lords there ready? Are we gonna get crack on? Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on. Bill, are you there, Bill?
I'm back.
Listen to this. Jarden online, he says, is Bill the historian from Llangynoed very posh or Kyra not so posh?
Where did you get that from?
No, he's just written it on you now. It's on my phone.
Oh, so you've heard of me, is he?
You're not from Llangynoed.
Well, yeah, close by. My state, Llangynoed, yes.
I'm going to say yes.
Yes, but yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's one of my homies.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Anne was going to join us tonight, but she actually sent me a message. She sent me a message, which is a bit silly. She sent me a message only whilst we've been talking. And I'm going to get what she said. She said, where is she? She said, where is it?
She's watching.
Oh, yeah, she says, yeah, is the international class on YouTube tonight? Yes, it is. Right. Oh, God. So, right. So she wants me to send her a link, which I'm going to have to do quickly. My God, it's getting a bit late. If send it, I'll go just do this quickly. Right. And via email. Default email, and we'll just send her a quick email. She's going to be a bit late coming on. I don't get this. People should always have the link there ready. Hang on a minute. She wants to come on and have a chat about something. I don't know what it is. Maybe she misses everybody. She might probably misses you, Bill.
It's going to be a long night then if she wants to chat.
Oh God, please no. Right, there we go. I'll send her that now. And it's sent. So Richard will have to let it on. Right, we're going to crack on. We are going to crack on. And let's go on to the next image. Now I've always thought with my classes, it's going really, really well in the first bit. And in the next bit, it starts to go to pot. But it's not going to happen tonight, touch wood. Right, so here we go. Next, right, the image. I just had an image up. Right, where's my image? Oh, my God. Right, hang on, fiddlesticks. Right, there's my image. Right, so we're gonna get my image up now. We're gonna get really excited, and we're gonna go sharing the screen. You should actually see an outline of a Roman fort. Are you seeing this, guys?
We are, yes.
Now this is called Rough Castle. Now the person who asked me to do this was on Tuesday night, and they basically said, Carl, can you look at Rough Castle? And I said, well, we're nowhere near Hadrian's Wall in what we're doing, but I decided that we're going to do Rough Castle because one of those because we're doing sort of frontiers and boundaries and sort of introducing them in the Roman world. I thought, why not do the Gasque Ridge next week, which is the Roman frontier in Britain that nobody ever knows about, which I do know a little bit about. We'll do the Gasque Ridge next week, which is north of the Antonine Wall. It's a very interesting frontier, but we're not doing that now. So Rough Castle itself is a Roman fort, which is which is sort of not too far away from the most eastern part of the Antonine Wall. Right, so hang on a minute, eastern part, never east. Yeah, I got that right. So basically, this is the frontier, right? This is the Antonine frontier associated with the Roman Emperor Antonius Pius. Did Antonius Pius ever come to Britain? Well, that's another story. But over here, right, we've got oh God, it's gone. There's another really important Roman site, Cramond. Over here is Cramond, right? So that's probably associated with the Antonine Wall. So let's get into flow. As you can tell, I'm trying to get into kilter. So the one thing about this site is that what we've got is over here is we've got the Principia. We've also got the HQ. we've got the legator or the centurion's home. Over here, there's also a bathhouse. You can see there's multiple defenses, right? There's one or two things that are fairly modern in the landscape. This is a lidar, and look at those things over here. Those are known as lilies. We will talk about the lilies. Right now, also interesting enough, this site has been excavated quite a number of times. There was some really fascinating stuff found in this ditch here. So obviously we are looking north. So obviously this is the Antonine Wall. Well, Antonine Wall with a little bit of a thing, right? And the reason why it's a big ditch, and on this side is a bank which towers 8 meters tall. From the base of the ditch, is 8 meters tall. It's really, really chunky, but it's not a wall. It's not a stone wall. So basically, you've got the ditch, and then you've got the surface horizon. You've got stone, and then rising from that, you've got a bank, right? Which would have had a wooden palisade running across. It's completely different from Hadrian's Wall. This isn't seen to be permanent. Some of the forts were for 20 years, right? One person said last night, they basically said, "Hang on a minute, right? Okay." So we agreed, and we had a little bit of conversation. Conversation was Hadrian's Wall. Hadrian's Wall is made of stone. The Antonine Wall is mainly made of earth and timber with some stone here and there. Bearsden, for example, in Glasgow itself, is actually a really nice Roman bathhouse, but that's another story. But and it was like maybe it was made of timber and earth because they didn't really need a frontier because they weren't that much under threat. So that's a really interesting point. So what are these lilies then? We've got to go on to that in a short while. So that's basically the ditch for the Antonine Wall. And obviously, there's so much to do in Roman era Britain that we're only touching the surface. And next week we've got to go back down south. Now, interestingly enough, we know of the detachment that were based here. They're actually from the Low Country, right? It was the cohort, the 6th Novivorum, right? And we know that because there's inscriptions at the site. So this site itself, this landscape, the Antonine frontier, dates roughly from about AD 143. A lot of earth, a lot of ditches, and you're thinking, well, hang on, is it a lot of earth and ditch because there wasn't a lot of stone about? Well, no, there's a lot of stone. There's a lot of stone, a lot of craggy stones they could actually use. They decided to make it earth, and you've got the ditch there, and you could call it a dike, but there you go. So the end. So what we've got is that we've got when we examine this, the fort is one of the best preserved of the forts constructed along the wall, the Antonine Wall. Well, it's one of the best excavated sites. And by the way, Richard, let the person on, whoever they are. So built against the southern rear face of the wall, the fort was defended by 6-meter thick turf ramparts and surrounded by defensive ditches. Good. Gateways were provided. So there we go. Let's have a little look at the plan as we're talking. Gateways were provided through the main wall to the north, and also through the walls that were built on the south part of the fort. There were 3 gateways going down south. Now, again, all of this is really, really interesting stuff. So if we actually move on a little bit, remember this is the Vicus, a lot of a Vicus here. And can we just mention a point, just a little bit of a point? If we go over to past the ditch there, look at that ditch running. If we go over by here where Cramond is, right? The one thing about Cramond and the Lion of Cramond is that, and we've got the Eagle of Cramond that we've got to do as well. So that's coming up in the future. Now, Cramond itself was still in use, operational, when the Antonine Wall was abandoned. And you're thinking, hang on a minute. So if this was a defensive frontier, which it's probably clearly not, right? It's a way marker. It's a boundary for the Roman province rather than defensive frontier. If it's a proper defensive frontier, you'd have a bloody chunky wall across it, as well as the massive ditch. Cramond itself was still in operation well after this frontier was abandoned, right? And it tells you something really interesting. And the thing that it tells you what's really interesting is that when you think about Scotland today, the Scots people say, no, the Romans never conquered Scotland. They definitely didn't. But it's maybe there's less violence. Again, in Scotland, we don't have lots of these sites being set alight by local people. We don't have that damage. In fact, what we've actually got really is lots people. Scottish archaeologists don't talk about the fact that there were lots of Scottish people who actually on the side of the Romans, because if they're trading with the Romans, and lots of this is like a customs gate or like a frontier exchange, right? That's coming from people who are actually friendly with the Romans. And one thing that got really, really bloody angry last night, and I gotta get into it, right? North of here is the supposed Battle of Mons Graupius, right? Which is a victory of the likes of Agricola. We don't do history again, over the Grampian tribes, right? And apparently there were Bill, there were 30,000 there were 30,000 native Grampian warriors who were killed on this battlefield, right? And there were like 5 or 6 Roman soldiers killed, right?
Oh no,
yeah, honestly, Bill, honestly, there were 30,000 local people slaughtered, right?
No.
Honestly, right?
No.
Shut up. I'm with you, Bill. Let me do my cynical bit. There were 30,000 warriors wiped out, and they haven't found the battlefield at Mons Graupius. The point is, I sit down and I think this, and I think, right, okay, those 30,000 warriors, right, plus the others that survived, they would have needed to be fed, right? They would have needed a central coordination to get them into the field, right? How do you coordinate? Not even Bonnie Prince Charlie had 30,000 soldiers. His army at Culloden was 6,000 strong. That's it. And he was unable to feed his troops. So, yes, you are right, Bill. No, because when you're thinking about big field armies back then, right, the Romans struggled to keep their army in the field, right? They needed local people to feed them, right? If they didn't have local people to feed them, the Romans could not have been in Scotland, right? But they were able to be in Scotland because they were fed by local people. By having all those warriors against the Romans in the field, right, they would have have to be taken from the land that they would have had to have manned 24/7 every single day of the year, because if they didn't, you know, they wouldn't have been able to feed their family. If they're going out to war, right, and they don't come back, their family's going to die. Right. So the likelihood of all these people fighting the Romans is very, very unlikely. And Bill is along with me on that one thing. These are known as the lilies. Lily Bolero, Lily Bolero, Lily Bolero, la la la. But before we go on to the lilies, let's do something else. Let's look at this one. The lilies. But we're not doing the lilies first. So this fort itself is in fact, even though the best archaeological remains of the 16 forts are around the Antonine Wall are here, this is the second smallest on the wall, right? It was the size of a football pitch, which is fairly big, 1 acre, fair enough. So the fort contains several stone buildings. So the bathhouse, the Principia, we'll show you some of those buildings in a short while, and evidence of the timber barracks. And there was a granary, right? There was also a room associated with the statues of Lloyd George, headquarters and so on, which I'll show you. So although the original buildings are not shown on the surface, the foundations were excavated in 1902, 1932, and 1957, 1961. And there is a little bit of this on the internet, which is really, really well displayed. We're going to come on to the plinths in a moment. So you can see this like really impressive sort of looking out north, and you're thinking, wow, that looks really impressive. Now, this is the archaeological evidence itself. This is the actual granary. So if we go on to there, the granary is the one in the middle, and their cellar associated with the Principia, the headquarters, and this is the commandants, the cohortes centurion is their house. This is where they lived, and obviously the walls over by here on the side, and you've got barracks in front, barracks on the side, barracks south of here as well. So that's the granary. So the granary, key building between these two structures. Obviously, this is a plan. I think this is a plan from 1932. It's got a like 1932 style to it rather than 1909 1902. But you can see the typical buttresses associated. There's another buttress there, similar stuff to Vindolanda. These are not the sort of normal pili stacks. These are sort of the running stacks. So it's very likely that this would actually supported a timber floor rather than a stone floor that you've actually got in evidence at Vindolanda itself, not Vindolanda, Birdoswald itself. But again, what you've got is stone evidence. So this is, they got stone buildings, but not the wall actually made of stone. The stone, as I said, is just made of earth and with a timber palisade. It's a really weird thing, really, because you couldn't sort of run along the top of it because it just wasn't that type of wall. It was an earthen bank, right? So if you're going to be attacked, even though you've got this massive ditch, the embankment that overtowers the ditch is not going to really be suitable for defense. So one thing that we've got is if we move on, and I'm making sure that we can sort of get this done tonight. This tablet itself from Rough Castle, which was found in the Principia, right? This is associated with Antonius Pius, and they've got several inscriptions found, but the one that's really interesting to us is the next one, which is actually this one. This is the altar to victory. And this is a wonderful piece of archaeology. And can you still hear me, guys?
Yeah.
You've still got the image. Okay, there was a weird thing that come up on the screen. Right, now, this is altar to victory. So I'll give you some more really interesting facts. We can read this. There we go. So this inscription is associated with one of the amazing artifacts of the site, along with the shoe as well, which we're going to come up with. So this is a cohors, which is COHORS, is shortened. They're the cohors 6th. This is an auxiliary detachment of the Nervorum. So you've got NER and you've got Nervorum there. So it's likely that this represents at maximum 480 auxiliaries, right? So this is basically, as I say, from the Low Countries, probably they're referring to it as a Gallic tribe, something from the Low Countries, sort of Netherlands or something like that, and from a place called Nervi. So this is the Nervorum regiment. So what we've got here as well is actually the name of the commander, which is absolutely amazing. If I can find the notes for the names of the commander, yeah, I thought I had it. Oh yeah, the commander of the Nervi, from the Nervorum cohort is mentioned on there, but I can't really work it out. But the guy's known as Flavius Beto, who was an Italian. So Flavius Beto commanded. So it was an Italian commanding these troops on the Nervorum from the Low Countries. So if we go back to, I think if we go forward and we go to the lilies, right? Now this is really interesting because this is actually from I think this is from 1755. So interesting enough, this is from 1755. And just think that this was done 10 years after the Jacobite rebellion. Right. So Culloden was on the 16th of April, wasn't it? That was 1746, I think. I'm going to double check that after the break. When I finish today, make sure I got the right date for Culloden. So an archaeologist was out there, right, making plans of the archaeology when Scotland was in a terrible mess. But we've got this beautiful plan of this site, as I say, from 1755. Now, interestingly enough, that is the military road, right, on the south side of the wall, which actually you've got a gateway there and a gateway there. So it goes through the fort itself. It must have been a pain in the bloody rear, to be honest with you, because every time a wagon goes from east to west, you've got to open the gates, but maybe the gates were permanently open because, what military threat have we got? And when you think about this would not have housed 480 men. It's the base of the 480 men. So they would have been billeted in different localities. But there's no sort of there's no turrets and there's no mile castles associated with this one. Very different from Hadrian's Wall. So when they were digging the ditch, so we got digging of the ditch. When they were digging this bit of a ditch, they found a fascinating. They found a bangle, which is interesting enough, but they found some glass. Yes, they found glass, Roman glass from a window, right, in the ditch. So obviously, the Principio or the commandant's house had glass in the windows. There you go. But what we do have, if I can get to it, where's the shoe? Hang on, there's a shoe. There's got to be a shoe. Hang on. I've got to find the shoe a minute. Hang on. I'm hoping I can find the shoe. Shoe. Hang on. Sorry, guys. The shoes are here somewhere. Right, I can't find the shoe. Hang on a minute. Where's the shoe? Oh, right. Yeah, I've got the shoe, guys. Follow me with the shoe. Right, hang on a minute. We're going to get back to the shoe. Hang on. Shoe. I'm going to say, are you looking at the... Are you looking at a shoe, guys?
No.
Blank screen.
Black.
Have you got a shoe now?
No.
No.
Right. Okay. Let's just. I tell you what. Right. I tell you what. Whilst I'm looking for the shoe, right, Anne, you're with us tonight. Well, who's
Got
with
the
us?
sound off.
Who's that? I was going to say somebody. Anne's joined us tonight, but anyway, we're going to go back to the shoe, guys. So we're going to start. We're going to go with the shoe because the shoe's fascinating, and there are other images of this, but I didn't look at that shoe. Right, that is not a medieval shoe; it's a Roman shoe, right? And it's not a sandal shoe at all. So we're actually finding this at Vindolanda now, that we're actually finding that we don't have hobnail sandals being worn by the Roman soldiers. We've got a shoe like this being worn. So that leather shoe was actually found in a ditch when they excavated it. So again, what we've got is really nice archaeology. And what we do have as well are these lilies. Now, these lilies are a series of pits that were discovered during the excavations lying to the northwest of the causeway across the Antonine Ditch. Now, showing you some personal stuff. So what we've got is these are the lilies, right? So those are the lilies. That's the reconstruction. There's the lilies. Those are the lilies in view. So that's good. You've got a stream over here, right? And what we're going to do, we'll go back to another image of the lilies. Those are the lilies, and they face north to south. So these are in east to west. They face north to south. And if I can change this image around a little bit, and we can go there. So what we've got people attacking from north to south. And I got to be honest with you, they took this photograph while somebody's bending over and you can see their backside, but we'll ignore that. So one with these lilies, these are actually really famous. And the one thing about these being really famous, we don't find much evidence of these much anywhere else in Britain, right? So these series of pits known as the lilies, would originally, as we know from archaeological excavation, these originally had, from a post hole, these originally had sharpened stakes at the bottom, and they were positioned to help defend the vulnerable north gateway through the wall. So if we go back to the image, so what we've got a sort of a river stroke stream here, right? And you've got these lilies basically nearly going to the stream. You've got this huge dike, this huge Antonine ditch here. You've got this earthen bank, right? And then you've got a wooden palisade on the top. Now, interesting enough, these lilies themselves only defend this part of the fort. And I got a bit perturbed by that. I thought, well, why are they only defending this bit? Why aren't they defending any other site? You know, there are on other sites, but not many, right? And as I thought this is a bit odd. Maybe they were just practicing doing it, right? But actually, the answer came with one of the guys last night, Andy. He said, "Well, if you're going to be attacking, right? If you're going to be attacking and from north to south, right? Why didn't you just go over here?" So I was just talking like this, and I said, "Why didn't you just attack by here? We just sort of go in by here, right? You don't need to go over this, right?" So I was saying this. It must have been a band of Irishmen, right? They said, "Arr! Oh no, that's a pirate." So band of Irishmen, top of the world, yes sir. They're thinking, "All right, we've got to attack by here, because that's where the best defenses are, right? Now what we're going to do, because the Scots came from Ireland, as you know. So the Irish are going, top of the world, yes sir. So we're going to attack by here. We're all going to get killed. We're all going to be impaled on these stakes. We're not going to be able to get the defenses. We've got to be fair on the Romans. That's what we've got to do." Well, if you're a normal person, you're going to attack by year, right? And I was talking like this last night. And then suddenly somebody turned around and said last night, "Carl, if you look at the terrain and the landscape, maybe having these obstacles here was better than having them over here, line of sight and all the rest of it." So this was the most vulnerable part because it was more open ground, and this was less open ground and it was boggy. That's why we needed them over here. But in all honesty, we don't find them very much else anywhere in Roman era Britain. There probably are thereabout, but there's not much other references to these. There is something else. If anyone did a little bit of research on these lilies, they will find out, for example, that the Roman general Julius Caesar used these at Velice, right, in attacking Vercingetorix at Lyce in the year 52 BC. So back to what we said. So what we do have is that, you know, we look at this site, and over here we've actually got a bathhouse in the annex. They've added an annex, which is really unusual for Flavius Beto's detachment. And you can clearly see that you know if it's probably really unlikely that 480 troops were actually stationed here, right? Because all of this is actually taken up with sort of the granary, the sort of HQ, right? There's one barrack there, there's two there, and there's one there, one there, one there, one there. They usually say there's about 80 men in each barrack, right? But these are actually quite small barracks, right? So it's really difficult to work that. So there's probably troops actually based elsewhere. So as we're actually getting to at the end of this, really, I just wanted to say that, you know, we've got so much to look at in regards to Roman era Britain, and seeing a wonderful object like this. So we're not just getting shoes at places like Vindolanda, we are actually getting them at other localities. And again, looking at those lilias, and you're just thinking that what they would have done to actually stop people knowing there's a stake at the bottom of these, they would have filled them with leaves. But again, it just makes you think that in many ways, lots of what we do see here in Roman era Britain is experimental for the Romans. And I will mention this again, that in on Neath Common, for example, and on Landrindod Wells Common, they've got on the map, you see something called practice works, right? It's a specific type of Roman site, which practice works were actually used for Roman soldiers to actually practice creating defenses. So what you'd see on Neath Common, you'd see a corner with a turret there, and the rest of the fort wouldn't be completed. You'd see a little bit of ditch, and the rest of it wouldn't be completed. You'd find part of a fort. So in many ways, you could say that Roman era Britain is a practice ground for more excessive campaigns elsewhere. And the only parallel that I could actually give to this, and there's where we're talking about, the only parallel, if we go back and we get to the other images, the only parallel that I can actually give to this site is something that me and Richard have written about in the book that we're sort of editing at this minute. Is that his wife's grandfather, Richard's wife's grandfather, served in the First World War, but he didn't actually he probably didn't get to the trenches, right? Because you actually see a photograph of him at some practice trenches, right, where they're practicing for the First World War. So there's lots of these practice trenches in West Wales. There's a few in Mid Wales. There's a few in Scotland, right? There's actually lots of practice trenches across Britain. Future people can't turn around and say actually the First World War was fought in Britain, because it wasn't. But the evidence is that these trenches do exist. These practice works do exist in Britain, and with lots of them, there's some live ordnance, and there's some tragic stories of some of these people dying in these practice trenches in Britain. So to actually save face, they would say, oh, they actually died of wounds in France. Because they were using live ammunition, when in fact they didn't even get to France. They died in Britain. Grimsdyke, that's another thing. Antonine Wall. Some of these things have old names. Old Graham's Dyke is also known as. But it's going to be great to actually get to some of these sites. And I'm just going to say that just for next week we're going to be looking at Gascoigne, which I've mentioned. We might actually look at the Eagle of Cramond, which is a nice carving. And we might actually go to some of the detritus that is associated with some of the roadways and trackways of actually of Pompeii itself. And I'm just going to look at these notes. We've got nobody else is saying anything else on these notes online, but Jarden gives his love, Bill. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually finish tonight, because we've actually finished on time. The time that Goff wanted me to finish, but not the time Richard wanted me to finish. But so what we're going to do, we're going to finish there. Hopefully you've enjoyed this tonight, and we're going to stop the sharing, and I'm going to go out and play with my sheep. Right. So, Bill, anything you want to tell us, love?
I'd never come across those lilies as a defensive method, Carl. Presumably all the excavated material would have been reused, recycled to build the walls of the fort. Point one, probably.
Yeah, that's correct. But obviously, it's very odd when we refer to it as a wall, because it's not a wall in the sense that it's a stone wall. The other thing as well is when we look at Gascoigne, if I call it the Gask Wall, right, it's not a wall either. It's a road which is north of the Antonine Wall with lots of signal stations and loads of forts along it, which I was saying last night. I said, well, I've never heard of this. And I said, that's exactly why we're going to do it next week. So there we go, Bill. Anything else?
Were there any excavations carried out on the Vicus itself outside the fort? Because there would be rich pickings there.
Actually, from my reading, I don't think they have looked at the Vicus yet. That's the point. They've only looked at the fort. So I don't think they, from what I can work out, I'm pretty sure. I've got my Roman Scotland book here, Historic Scotland. I'm thinking it does mention the Vicus, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see any mention of any excavations on the Vicus, which would be rich pickings. It would be, certainly would be. Right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Carl. That's my lot.
Okay, good. Your poor old Anne, she's made the effort to come on tonight, but she can't unmute her doodah, and we can't see her, which is a shame. Right, Henry, anything from you?
No, well, only the pits form an interesting defense line, because it's easy to construct with stakes at the bottom. So you're not actually involving much heavy work on actually building walls and other banks.
In regards to the earth, yeah?
Yeah. So
go on.
No, as a defensive line, it works perfectly.
It works as a... This is the problem. Last night, I didn't use the word defensive. I used the word frontier line. I just basically said, well, it's less permanent, and I fudged the idea of defensive. But when you think in the minds of mentally defensive, it is. If you really pressed it, it wasn't as defended as Hadrian's Wall. So, but as a barrier, as a sort of in brackets defensive, you are right in what you've just said. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. That was great. Thank you.
And I tell you what, stay on afterwards. I'll take this off record and stuff, and we'll have the chat about the thing. Yeah, okay. And also, you mentioned You mentioned this image. You could have said you're going to send. Oh, you've sent me a few here, which I can't use tonight. But it says, you get a cart over crossing stones. So
Yeah,
yeah.
if you focus it in, you can see that a cartwheels will actually pass the stones.
But this is an extremely wide section of road in Pompeii. This is, as I said, there were some wider ones, and this is one of the wider ones. This is you can get two carts alongside each other there, and yeah.
I wouldn't say so. I walked it, and you wouldn't.
So I'm wrong there on that one. Okay, but
Yeah.
there is drainage along this image.
And the drainage sides are very large. The slots on the side of the gutters are
I can
very,
see it.
yeah, very large.
Shocking. You could get a cart over that, but maybe, yeah. Well, we're going to do this next week. We won't talk anymore, but we'll do that next week. I'm loving that image. Why didn't you get me that before, you Nana?
I have sent it to you weeks and months ago.
Not that one. Not
Yes.
that. No.
Yes, you just don't look at them.
I do. We used them for a lecture that you didn't come along to. Right, we're going to do that next week. Oh my God, Henry, have you finished talking? We've got a voice in the dark.
Good. Yep.
Right, okay, right. We're going to do Anne.
Yes. I only wanted to tell you what that little sculpture was.
Go on, tell us, and I'll show them all next week.
Yeah. Oh, shall I wait till next week then? It's just
yeah. Tell us. No, yeah. Tell us next week.
All right.
See,
okay.
That's my way of getting you on next week. So, anything else you want to say to the boys? You can say hello to the boys.
Hello, everybody. I just thought I'd come along, but hello. I'm just got to learn how to get back on on site again. Okay.
Oh, and Anne, we're gonna have a little walk tomorrow at 5 o'clock if you can get there. So.
Oh right, okay.
The usual meeting place. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I know Hugh is waiting to see what the answer is to that quiz I gave you, and
well,
it's I will. Oh, no, I know I can't.
Don't tell us. Don't tell us.
All right.
He will have to turn up tomorrow. He'll have to turn up tomorrow on the walk to get the answer. All right.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for that, Anne, and we'll see you next week or tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Probably next week now. Yeah.
That'll be good. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay.
I have to get all these out. Right. Okay then. Thank you, Anne. So we're gonna quick. Who have we got left now? We got have I done Bill? Have I done you, Bill?
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Ricardo. Or golf.
Oh yeah, okay. I tell you what, should we do Richard first, Bill?
Okay, go on, let's go for it.
Bill, Richard, anything you want to say?
Only those lilies, as you were saying, they only did sort of part of a sort of attack line where they would attack from. I think if they were covered and well disguised, it was more or less to lure them in to come through in that direction.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's got all these lethal traps if they, you could cover it with grass or whatever.
Ah, right. So what you're saying, you're talking about the cartoon, like Gordon a cartoon thing. You try and drag them in a certain area.
Yeah.
Like, that works.
Yeah.
That
like if the rest of it was all shrubs, like shrub land and everything, and you've got a nice little green looking piece that looks like you could just run through it. That's the way you're going to come into attack.
I met a woman in a green part. He was a green looking piece. Yeah. Yeah, you are right, Richard. You are right. So
why go? Then why dig all of them? That's why you just do a little area.
That is very true. Very true. I want to say something, Richard, but the one thing is we really only see them present at this locality, and it's just like thinking, well, if they were really, I know what's been said about this is a frontier that is looks quite defensive and but it's almost as if at times, like Hadrian's Wall, some of it is practice, some of it You know, this would be a practice exercise to see if it works. That's what it says to me. And you're right in what you said. You're right in what you said, Richard. So anything else, Richard?
No, I'm just saying, because when we were kids, we used to build traps like that around our bonfire.
What, with stakes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not big stakes.
No, just enough to kill someone.
Well, just you know.
That's
Go
what you
through a
get for
foot
being
or
in Barry.
something. It is Barry, isn't it?
Barry. Oh dear.
You lose a foot or something, perhaps a leg.
My God, I thought you were a nice boy. I've really changed my idea about you. Okay, and anything
That's it for me.
Thank you for that. Anything else, Richard?
No, that's it for me.
Right. And did you want to say something before we go to golf?
No, I just thought, you know, that was oh sorry. I just think that they were very creative. Oh, who's that?
That's me.
Thank you, Anne.
Oh. I
Anyway.
gotta go.
All right, Anne. And finally, Goff, is there anything you want to say, babe?
No, nothing to add to my colleagues. Quite good images tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure. So next week we've got a lot to do next week, including some stuff from an image from Anne. We've got some stuff from our friend online, Andrew, and we've got some stuff from Henry, as well as all the other stuff that we're doing next week. I really appreciated you guys joining me tonight, and yes, we've had a good time. So if nobody's got anything else to say, we're gonna call it a night.
Bye bye.
So Henry's going to stay on to have a private chat with me. So I'm going to say good night, Goff, Richard,
Bye.
Bill, Henry, everyone else, Anne.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Regarding online and
Bye.
dialogue.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Night, my gay abandon.
Good night.
Night, my lovers. Night, my lovers. Arr. Arr.
Oh dear. I gotta try and get away from you now.
Yeah. I think you had. If you
You're
what?
stuck on my phone. That's all right.
Oh, for God's sake! I don't want to be on there.
Right.
Do you imagine going to bed with Anne at night on the phone? I hope you don't. I hope you don't snore. No, you forget it. Just go. Anyway, I'll see you soon, Anne. If you are coming tomorrow, then if you are coming tomorrow,
No,
just tell me.
I'm not sure if I can make it tomorrow. Just
All right,
short notice. I got all my dates mixed up this week. I got all my meetings all mixed up. I even had to ask you.
Oh, yeah, I'm confused myself. All right, then.
Remember? Anyway, I'll just say good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
I don't know how to get off.
Oh, for fuck. Oh no. I can't handle this. This is just too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I'll be with you all night now.
Yeah, me and just Henry's got to go, and I just got to have a quick chat with him about something personal.
Go on.
But, you know.
Go on then. I'm fine. I'll turn.
Yeah,
the
no,
sound
we'll
off.
just do it with you there. It's fine, Anne. And I'll do it live online. It's fine. God's sake, I can't get the staff anymore. I really can't. Oh,
yeah,
you're still there.
Oh. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Have I gone now?
No.
Yeah,
No.
Oh God.
Ask us if you're still there.
Am I still there?
You're still there. Yeah, you're still there. You're still there. Yeah.
What? How do I get rid of the video then? I've got. Oh God.
Turn your phone off.
Yeah, that'll be the best thing.
Yeah,
okay then. Good night then.
No,
Bye.
it's
Bye.
fine.
Oh, God.
She's still there. She just turned Bill off. Anne, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh God. Help. Oh, do you know what? I just gonna see if I've won the lottery whilst I'm waiting for you.
I can't even turn my phone off. Oh, this has really gone wrong.
Oh, can I just say one thing, Anne? Are you any good with technology?
No, I got everything on. I've got my iPad on.
What?
I got my iPad on, my computer on, and
What?
I can't. And this is my phone.
What's
And
that got to do with?
I'm trying to turn it off. I don't know how to. I've even tried to
Flipping
be
heck.
quiet.
It took longer for you to get. It took longer for you to leave than it is to bloody get on.
Yeah, that's true.
The problem is I can't kick you off because I got to report to Zoom why I kicked you off.
Oh God.
Oh my God. Right. Okay. Right. With a Samsung, right, you've got to press the button on the side, right? I got a Samsung
The
as well.
power button.
The power button. No, it's not as simple as that. So here we go. On the Samsung, you've got to press the button on the side and the one above, like this, right? Oh God, I can't even switch my phone off now. Oh no.
We
Right.
can't see
Okay.
your hands.
So right,
We
you got
must be
there
joined
and
together.
those two buttons. Those two buttons. I can't even switch. Right, those there. Oh, that's the sound in it. Oh no. Right, okay, if we do that there, this is going wrong now, Henry. Yeah, hang on. I can't even turn my phone off. Oh God. And if I turn my phone off, does it mean that I turn yours off as well?
No.
I can't even do it. Hang on. Is it like there? Oh, I can't. These it's Samsung phones with a bloody iPhone. You've got to press two buttons as well. Are you still there, Anne?
Yes, she is. We could talk
Oh,
on
she's
phone.
gone. She's actually gone.
Oh,
Oh my God, that is so good. Right, I better get this off Duda. Right, I better
Yeah.
get this off